Incredible moment revealed, single dad transformed a female CEO's wedding loneliness into joy. Jake stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of his second-hand suit. The fabric was a bit thin from years of wear, but it was the best he could pull together on short notice. His pulse thrummed with anxiety, each beat a reminder of how out of place he felt among the polished elite attending Amanda's wedding. He felt anchored to the life of a single dad, drowning beneath the expectations that seemed to cling heavier with every passing year. How could a simple dad like him who spent his days flipping burgers and fixing computers ever fit into the extravagant world of his former classmate? The invitation had arrived unexpectedly, a lifeline tossed into the sea of his lonely existence. He'd been thrilled to hear from Amanda, yet the moment he accepted, dark clouds of self-doubt had hovered. She was a CEO now, a woman with power, success, and a glamorous life that Jake dared not dream of. But what did that mean for him? A wistful gaze landed on a photo of his wife, her warm smile now a flickering memory, a reminder of what he had loved and lost. The memories of their laughter, their dreams, unfurled like the petals of a wilting flower, leaving him with an ache deep inside. As he stepped into the buzzing venue, an ornate space filled with laughter, shimmering lights, and sweet aromas, Jake's heart raced. The air hummed with delight, but he felt isolated, as if he stood on the fringes of every conversation. Could he even relate to these people? The thought churned in his mind, tightening around his lungs, as he welcomed the familiar pangs of inferiority. He watched Amanda mingle, a radiant figure among her guests. Did she remember the boy who painted in the high school art room, lost in color and light? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake noticed how Amanda's smile faltered the slightest bit as she spoke to one of the guests, her laughter strained and hollow. Underneath the contemporary veneer of success, there lay a chain of burdens that mirrored his own sense of isolation. The weight of familial loss, the struggle to connect, it was all woven within the tapestry of her carefully curated life. As she stepped away from the crowd, Jake seized the moment and approached her, compelled by an invisible force. "Hey, Amanda," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The cosmic intersection of their paths suddenly intensified the air between them. She turned, her eyes widening as she registered his presence. In those fleeting seconds, vulnerability surged through him. He felt the rawness of his own scars gnawing at him. Would he risk opening up about his life? What if she didn't understand? The ache in his chest deepened as he wrestled with the thoughts spiraling in his head. Every step towards her felt like traversing treacherous terrain. Just as he was about to speak, the steady thrum of fear clutched his throat, and he hesitated. Would this be the moment that transformed not only her loneliness but his, too? The music shifted, the crowd spun, a whirlwind of contrasts. Jake could no longer ignore the dissonance between himself and the world around him, his earnest life as a dedicated father against her opulent narrative of success. With every heartbeat, the tension built, wrapping tighter, leaving him grasping for words as he faced the daunting prospect of genuine connection. What lay beyond this moment? Would he be brave enough to leap into the unknown? As he looked into her eyes, the possibilities hung between them like the notes of a half-finished song, both haunting and hopeful. Jake felt the weight of silence enveloping them, a dense vapor that blurred the vibrant world around him. Amanda's gaze was steady, questioning, perhaps an echo of their shared past. The anticipation tugged at his insides, each moment stretching into an eternity. He knew he should say something meaningful, that this could be an opportunity to break through the chasm that had separated their worlds. Finally, words seemed to find him in those jagged seconds. "It's been a long time," he managed, his voice steadying, a resolve forming beneath his uncertainty. As he spoke, He caught a glimpse of something in her eyes, recognition of the boy he once was, mixed with curiosity about the man he had become. "Jake! I can't believe it's you," she exclaimed, her smile genuine, the warmth breaking the ice that had formed over the years. The hesitance in his heart dissipated slightly, replaced by a hope that flickered to life, sparking his resolve. They both settled into the conversation, at first skimming the surface, discussing mundane topics: how Amanda loved her job, how Jake's kids were growing up, and yet, beneath those layers lay unspoken truths. Each shared detail felt like tentative brushstrokes on a canvas they had once painted together. As they talked, Amanda spoke with passion, revealing the rigors of her role as CEO. The challenges she faced ignited something in Jake, a forgotten enthusiasm that had long been dulled by the routine of single parenthood. A realization surged through him: he had the ability to inspire children, to cultivate their interests just as he had nurtured his own passion for art years ago. Could the same creative spark that brought color to his youth illuminate his current path? Their conversation shifted, delving deeper. Jake found himself sharing snippets about his struggles, about how the loss of his wife had transformed him, knocking him off balance, yet instilling a fierce drive to be the best father he could be. Amanda listened intently, her brow furrowed in empathy. In that moment, he understood something profound: his narrative wasn't just a tale of insurmountable grief, it was one of resilience. "I often feel like I'm swimming in a sea of expectations, too," Amanda said, surprising him. "People see what I've accomplished, but they don't see the nights I stay awake worrying about everything falling apart." Suddenly, their contrasting lives, once stark and disparate, wove together into a tapestry of shared experience and vulnerability. Jake's heart surged with a sense of connection, an impulse igniting deep within him. This gathering wasn't merely a social obligation, it was a crossroads, a chance to reclaim parts of himself he believed lost. Determined to forge this reconnection, he took a breath that filled his lungs like a welcoming tide. "I think we've both lost a bit of ourselves along the way," he admitted. "But maybe that's why we've found each other again. We can help each other remember who we really are." As he spoke, Amanda's expression transformed, her facade of success flickering as the tension shifted. She seemed to ponder his words, her thoughts drifting away into a distant horizon only she could see, and Jake wondered what new revelations might emerge from this rekindled friendship. Was it possible that they could support one another's journeys? Just as he was about to dig deeper, another voice interrupted them, tearing the moment asunder. With a glance that spoke volumes, Amanda turned her attention back to the bustling crowd, her demeanor shifting as she engaged with the newcomer. Jake stepped back, the vibrant possibilities dimming in the whirlwind of festive chaos. The unspoken bond he felt was momentarily severed, yet within him, a flicker had ignited. The words of connection lingered in the air, hanging like a promise yet to be fulfilled. As he walked away, a rush of determination surged within him. He couldn't let this opportunity slip away. But first, he needed to confront his own doubts and discover if he could truly carve out a place where the single dad felt capable of thriving. Bridging the chasm that lay between ambition and reality. The night was far from over, and as he glanced back at Amanda, he realized the time would soon come to face not just the ghosts of his past but the potential of what could be. How could he craft a new identity amid the remnants of loss, and would he dare to embrace the vulnerability that lay at the heart of true success? The questions loomed, poised to reshape his future in unpredictable ways. Jake paced through the dimly lit streets that night, the cool air wrapping around him like a shroud, each breath filled with the promise of transformation. The encounter with Amanda stirred something in him, a dormant spark that had survived the debris of his loss. As the echoes of their conversation replayed in his mind, he felt a new urgency to confront the feelings he had locked away: fear, ambition, and an unshakable belief in what he could become. He reached his car, the hum of the city buzzing around him like an orchestra warming up. The familiar scent of the leather interior was grounding, it reminded him of the countless drives where he had contemplated his life and aspirations. This time, however, he was not just thinking. He was plotting. He turned the key in the ignition, feeling as if he was turning over a new leaf with every rev of the engine. As he navigated the streets illuminated by streetlights, Jake recalled a small art studio he had passed numerous times. It had been years since he had painted, years since he had allowed himself to express the creativity that had been his solace during turbulent moments. Why not visit? What did he have to lose? His body hummed with nervous energy as he pulled into a parking spot. The old sign above the workshop, once vibrant, had begun to weather, but inside, he sensed the potential waiting to be unleashed. He entered the studio, and the faint smell of turpentine wrapped around him like an old friend. "Can I help you?" a voice interrupted his reverie. The artist, a middle-aged woman with streaks of paint staining her apron, regarded him with a patient smile. "I used to paint here, years ago." The admission felt strange, almost like unearthing a forgotten part of himself. He struggled to assert the depth of his connection to the place. "I've been away for a long time." "Long enough to know what you want?" she probed, tilting her head. Jake hesitated, the weight of honesty pressing against him. "No, actually. I feel lost. I thought I could recapture that spark, but doubts have been shadows haunting me." Her gaze softened, the understanding in her eyes igniting an unexpected warmth within him. "What about those doubts? Are they truths, or just voices from the past?" As they spoke, he found himself pulling apart the layers of his fears, the fear of failure, the fear of stepping out from the shadows of grief and becoming someone new. "I guess I'm terrified of failing, not just myself but my children, too. I don't want to let them down. I should be stable." "But stability can stifle growth," she noted. "What if you considered your art as a bridge rather than a risk? What if it became an avenue for your kids to know you? For them to see the man behind the father?" The clarity in her words resonated within him like a symphony. He had hidden from his passion for so long, thinking it was selfish to pursue his interests at the expense of his duties as a father. Yet something crucial dawned on him, demonstrating his humanity, embracing his vulnerabilities and desires, could teach his children valuable lessons about resilience and joy. With newfound determination, he picked up a brush, holding it as he once had in his youth, letting the paint splatter across the canvas. Each stroke felt like an awakening, a reclamation of a piece of himself. After an hour lost in creativity, he stepped back and stared at the vibrant colors before him. It was chaotic yet bursting with potential, much like his life. He smiled through the uncertainty, knowing he had just embarked on a journey far more expansive than mere artistry. This was about self-discovery, about breaking through the layers surrounding his heart, yet, the exhilaration was swiftly tangled with lingering trepidation. He needed to confront the fact that Amanda had re-emphasized that vulnerability was not a weakness, it was a path to empowerment. The image of her thoughtful expression lingered in his mind, and he realized he had to reach out. What would he say to her? Would she see his artistic revival as the beginning of something greater, or would it serve as a reminder of paths not taken? As he drove home, a burning question clenched his stomach. Would this renewed commitment to himself solidify a connection with Amanda, or would reopening old wounds leave him feeling raw and exposed? The uncertainty stirred a restless anticipation within him. He was determined not to shy away from the challenge of facing his past, nor the fear of rising to meet the potential ahead. The next morning, Jake woke up to the sound of his children bustling around the house, their small voices layered with laughter. He sat up in bed, a hint of a smile forming as he recalled the fervor of the previous night, the burst of paint, the thrill of reclaiming a long-suppressed talent. Yet that smile felt brittle, splintered by what awaited him. Facing Amanda, a woman who had already started to weave her way into the fabric of his new aspirations, loomed over him like a specter. His fingers instinctively brushed against the paint-stained apron draped on the back of a chair, a visual reminder of his artistic rebirth. He pondered how he could connect this new journey back to those he cared for most. Could he convey the passion he had rediscovered, or would the words falter under the weight of expectation? Jake took a deep breath and headed downstairs. His children were seated at the table, eagerly recounting their dream stories from the previous night. Listening to them, he realized that he needed to weave his narrative into theirs not through little anecdotes but by showing them that it was okay to embrace change, to reach outside of comfort zones. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" he asked, half curious, half seeking insights into their own identities. "An artist," yelled his youngest, her face lighting up. Suddenly, a seed of determination spliced itself into Jake's thoughts. He realized the moment was ripe for sharing his own aspirations. "You know, I used to be an artist when I was younger," he began, gauging their reactions. "I think I'm going to start painting again. Would you two like to help your dad create a masterpiece?" He watched as their faces erupted with excitement. In moments, they were enveloped in dreams of colors and canvases, a virtual explosion of ideas and possibilities. He seized the moment, threading their budding creativity into his plans, believing teamwork would deepen their relationship while simultaneously inviting them into his world. After breakfast, they gathered supplies, brushes, canvases, and vibrant tubes of paint. Jake felt a flutter of nervousness twist in his stomach, a sensation both familiar and exhilarating. He had no specific direction for the day's canvas, but the spark ignited some primal instinct within him. As the three of them began to paint together, chaos quickly ensued. Color splashes flew across the kitchen table, and laughter filled the air as they each took a turn to direct what their piece would look like. What unfolded was not just a painting, it was a mishmash of emotions, a representation of their individual identities harmoniously clashing. Amid the vibrant chaos, Jake grasped a fundamental truth: this was not merely a recreational activity, it was a lesson in vulnerability for all of them. He wasn't just showing them how to paint, he was revealing the nuances of perseverance, the strength embedded in sharing one's passions despite the risk of judgment. Later that evening, feeling an unusual surge of confidence, he decided to text Amanda. It was a small, simple message: "Hey Amanda, I painted today with the kids. Would love to share the experience if you're free to chat." As he met the keys on his phone, he hesitated. The message felt like both a leap and a tether. It could open doors or expose fears he was not fully ready to face. With a deep breath, he hit send, the blue check mark dancing before him as though mocking his nerves. What had he just done? The moment of truth loomed ahead. Would she engage, or would he feel the sting of rejection? He needed her insight, her creative perspective to validate this new chapter he had embarked upon. Just as he placed the phone down, a notification popped up. It was Amanda's response. His pulse quickened, apprehension pulsing through him. What would she say? Would this be a step forward or an unsettling reminder of the distance still between them? With clenched fists, Jake steeled himself, ready to confront whatever reaction awaited. The moment stood still, a promise and a peril wrapped together, waiting to explode. Jake's heart raced as he read Amanda's response. "That sounds wonderful. I'd love to hear more about it. When can we chat?" Relief washed over him, lightening the weight that had been pressing on his chest since sending the message. He didn't immediately respond. Instead, he sat back, processing the shift in their dynamic. It was a fragile yet hopeful step toward meaningful connection, both personal and professional. In the midst of this psychological turmoil, memories of the day with his children surged back. The laughter, the colorful chaos, and how they transformed mere paint into feelings became a complex tapestry woven with renewed identity. That day awakened in him the understanding that creativity was deeply introspective, and through shared artistic expression, much could be revealed. How limitless their imaginations were left him in awe. It gave him clarity. If he could instill in his children the courage to embrace their vulnerabilities, perhaps he could also learn to do the same in his own life, especially with Amanda. That he quickly typed back, suggesting they meet at the coffee shop on Main Street later that week. As he hit send, Jake felt a renewed sense of determination wash over him, mingling with anticipation. Connecting with Amanda was no longer just about seeking validation for his artistic endeavors, it was about taking actionable steps forward in life, showing up and leaning into the discomfort instead of retreating into self-doubt. The following days unfolded with a rhythm of its own. Jake found himself iterating on the joys of painting with his kids, and the bond formed through their collaborative art deepened. Every brush stroke mirrored a personal revelation. He began to allocate time for himself to paint after the children went to bed, creating a safe space for exploration. Each evening became a metaphorical canvas where he navigated his fears and doubts. The chaos settled into a structured creative outlet where colors spoke louder than his inner critic, yet a lingering shadow loomed. The impending conversation with Amanda felt like a double-edged sword. He oscillated between confidence and anxiety. Was she genuinely interested, or was he simply projecting his hopes onto her? Unsure of where their connection could lead, he wrestled with his desire for professional growth while mourning the loss of what could have been a life with stability, companionship, and perhaps love. Jake dedicated time to preparing for their meeting, jotting down notes on what he wanted to share about his journey back into creativity. More importantly, he reflected on the lessons he had gleaned: the necessity of vulnerability and sincerity in both art and relationships. What would he want Amanda to understand about this new side of him? Would she appreciate the vulnerability, or would it alienate her? The stakes felt uncomfortably high. Finally, the day of their coffee meeting arrived. In the quiet moment before their conversation, Jake mentally rehearsed his thoughts, preparing for the best and worst-case scenarios. He stepped inside, the rich aroma of coffee coiling around him like a warm hug. He spotted Amanda already at a corner table, a sketchbook open before her, the faint outline of a landscape captured within its pages. His breath caught in his throat, drawing forth both admiration and newfound nervousness. This was more than an opportunity, it was a chance to bridge the gap between his old and new self, unveiling his journey while also seeking her insights. As he approached, their eyes met, and a flicker of something, curiosity, perhaps, passed between them. Jake opened his mouth to greet her, but what would he say? How would he navigate this conversation, forging a path through his professional aspirations intertwined with personal revelations? The coffee shop buzzed with the chatter of patrons, yet in that moment, it felt as though everything faded away, leaving just the two of them suspended on the precipice of possibility. And as he sat down, everything around him shifted, unveiling not just the casual encounter ahead, but a moment crafted by choices yet to be made, choices that could redefine who he was becoming. The moment of truth was fast approaching, rippling with tension and potential. Would this conversation lead to an opening or cement the distance he had feared? As the weighty silence lingered, Jake resolved to dive deeper into self-exploration, questioning not just who he was now but who he could become. Jake's palms felt slightly sweaty as he took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. He had rehearsed his introduction several times, yet the words clashed in his mind like errant brush strokes on an unfinished canvas. This meeting was pivotal. It symbolized not only a professional opportunity but a personal reckoning with all he had been navigating: the doubts, triumphs, and emotional rawness of diving back into creativity. "Hi, Amanda," he finally said, forcing a smile, infusing warmth into the greeting. "Thanks for meeting me. I hope I'm not interrupting your sketching." He gestured toward her open sketchbook, feeling the tension ease ever so slightly in her presence. "No, not at all. I'm always happy to take a break for good conversation," she replied, her smile radiating genuine curiosity and openness. "I was really intrigued by what you mentioned in your message. Tell me more about what you've been up to since you decided to embrace your artistic side again." Her question hung in the air, a lifeline that pulled him from the depths of self-doubt. Jake nodded, his insecurities momentarily quieted by her encouragement. "I've been painting with my kids a lot. It's like rediscovering colors I forgot existed." He found himself leaning forward, invigorated by how easily the words came. "Every time we create something together, I'm confronted with my own fears of inadequacy. It's as if every brush stroke encourages me to face vulnerabilities I've avoided for too long." As he spoke, Amanda's eyes brightened. She didn't just listen, she engaged, prompting further exploration into the emotions that inspired his return to creativity. It stirred a tempest of thoughts in him, pushing him to confront why he feared these moments of potential connection. "What do you think has shifted in you?" she asked, jotting down notes in her sketchbook, her concentration palpable and steadying. There was again another question that prompted deeper reflection. "I realized that in my art, I can express parts of myself I've hidden away. And that connection with my kids has taught me that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. He paused, invigorated by her interest, yet wary of revealing too much. Was he truly ready to bear those aspects of himself? Amanda tilted her head thoughtfully, and a mixture of admiration and surprise washed over her face. That's an incredible insight, Jake. So many people think creativity is just about skill, but it's about authenticity too. Are you planning to exhibit your work? The question sent jolts of excitement through him. I've considered it, he admitted, but I'm still battling with that fear of setting myself out there. It feels like I'm exposing everything I've ever feared. His heart raced, he was venturing into the unknown, revealing his hesitations, yet feeling inexplicably lighter. Her response was gentle but firm. Art is meant to be shared, and your journey could inspire others, including your children. They might learn the importance of embracing their authenticity through your example. This affirmation propelled Jake's confidence forward, catalyzing something new within him, a resolute desire to confront not just his fears related to art, but also his professional aspirations. They continued discussing expectations and hopes, and as the conversation flowed, Jake found himself contemplating the paths they might take together. Yet intertwined with those thoughts was a burgeoning dread of taking risks, the looming fear of failing before achieving any sort of connection, professionally or personally. As their coffee cups drained and the hours slipped away unnoticed, Jake pondered whether he was ready to transform this connection into something more significant. The questions he had posed to himself now echoed louder than ever. What if this was not just a professional opportunity, but a chance to confront his own doubts in deeper ways? Jake, Amanda's voice broke his reverie, bringing him back. I think we're onto something amazing here. We should collaborate. What do you think? His heart raced again, this time from both excitement and fear. Could he push himself into this new territory, or would he allow self-doubt to dictate his next move? As he searched for the right words to express both his enthusiasm and apprehension, a thought flashed. He was standing on a precipice, grappling with the potential for profound transformation. But what would become of him if he plunged into that unknown? Would he soar, or would he crash? The cafe buzzed with the hum of conversations and the clinking of cups, a backdrop to Jake's internal storm. Amanda's suggestion coursed through him like lightning, illuminating both the promise of collaboration and the shadows of his doubt. What would it mean to become a part of something bigger than himself, especially with someone as accomplished as she was? Collaborate? He echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. The idea both thrilled and terrified him. Imagine transforming his experiences, his artistic journey, into a project that might resonate with others. Yet, the thought of exposing himself, his insecurities, his artistic voice felt like stepping onto a tightrope. Absolutely, Amanda said, her enthusiasm palpable. We could create a series of pieces that explore the themes of vulnerability and authenticity. I think it would resonate with a lot of people. As she spoke, Jake felt a flicker of excitement ignite within him, battling the familiar tendrils of fear wrapping around his heart. I've never really worked with anyone before, he admitted, the vulnerability creeping into his voice. What if I let you down? What if I can't keep up? Amanda leaned back slightly, her expression turning serious yet supportive. This isn't a competition. It's about exploring and sharing our individual perspectives. We'll inspire each other. That's the point. He wanted to believe her. In that moment, he realized it wasn't just about the art. It signified a larger leap, a willingness to engage with both his professional aspirations and emotional anxieties head-on. The possibility of growth loomed before him, already altering his internal landscape. What if we start with something small? He proposed, a mix of hope and caution playing in his tone. Absolutely. We can brainstorm ideas together and see where our styles intersect. I'm sure we'll find something unique, she responded, brimming with positivity. Jake felt the edges of his anxiety smooth over slightly as they discussed potential themes and ideas. They bounced concepts back and forth, shaping a creative plan that began to take root in a way that felt both daring and liberating. But lurking just beneath the surface was a nagging apprehension: could he truly sustain this momentum? Their conversation wove in and out of serious artistic exploration, often punctuated with laughter and the spark of a possible friendship. Each time they shared insights, he could sense the fissures in his doubt starting to widen. Flickers of excitement began to fill the cracks. Maybe this was the change he needed. As they wrapped up the meeting, Amanda jotted down a date for their next meeting on her sketchbook. "Let us meet next week, and I'll bring some prompts to play with. Work on anything you feel inspired to share." Jake nodded, his heart racing with a blend of anticipation and residual fear. "Do you think I really can make a difference through this?" "Absolutely," she replied, her sincerity dissolving the knots in his stomach. "You have a unique perspective that deserves to be seen, Jake. Remember, art is about connecting both with ourselves and others. Your journey is just as valid as anyone else's." He left the cafe, the crisp air hitting his face. The shadows of doubt still lingered in the corners of his mind, but they were now accompanied by a burgeoning sense of hope. Somewhere deep within him, a shift had occurred. His fears didn't feel like impenetrable walls, rather, they appeared as hurdles to be leaped over. As he navigated home, thoughts cascaded in a rush. What if he embraced this opportunity to partner with Amanda fully? What if this collaboration could not only redefine his art but also reshape his self-perception? Standing at the threshold of his front door, he hesitated. Would he allow himself the freedom to explore and benefit from this partnership? Or would he retreat into the safety of his familiar insecurities? The decision loomed before him. He was at the cusp of transformation. What awaited him if he stepped through that doorway? The moment hung heavily in the air, pregnant with possibility. He knew one thing for sure: the stakes were high, and his next move would dictate the course of his journey. How far was he willing to go to confront his truths? Jake stood at the door, his pulse quickening with the gravity of his decision. He could feel the weight of his hesitation, a physical manifestation of the conflict between his yearning for growth and his fear of exposing himself emotionally. He took a deep breath, letting go of the lingering doubts that clung to his shoulders like a heavy coat. He stepped inside. Once settled in his studio, the familiar sight of his brushes and canvases brought a comfort that countered the tremors of anticipation coursing through him. Today, he would not just create, he would seek to confront his vulnerabilities, both the artistry he feared to share and the self he often kept hidden from the world. That collaboration with Amanda had ignited something within him, and he was determined to honor it. Jake started by gathering his materials, the tactile sensations grounding him. As he set up a large blank canvas, he reflected on Amanda's encouragement. "You have a unique perspective," she said. His impulse was to dismiss it, to relegate it to mere flattery. Yet her sincerity lingered, whispering possibilities he couldn't ignore. He poured a mix of colors on his palette, their vibrancy calling to him like a siren. In the past, his approach had been solitary, a quiet exploration of his thoughts captured within brushstrokes. But now, he envisioned them as part of a dialogue not only with Amanda but with an audience who might resonate with his journey. He began to paint, the strokes bold yet hesitant, reflecting the internal battle playing out in his mind. Each movement was a challenge against the crippling self-doubt that had held him captive for so long. The sunlight streamed through the window, encouraging the colors to dance on the canvas. Yet even amid this creative surge, self-criticism crept in. Why was he painting? Was it merely for validation, or was it an honest expression? The question lingered, unsettling yet necessary. He paused, hands hovering above the canvas, and considered the theme Amanda suggested: vulnerability. His life had been a tapestry of vulnerabilities, woven intricately through fatherhood, artistic aspirations, and personal battles. Why not confront that head-on? In a bold move, Jake decided to incorporate elements of his experiences as a father. The struggles, the joys, and the moments of doubt would become part of his artistic narrative. Over the next few hours, he poured himself onto the canvas. Colors merged and swirled, creating forms that began to take shape, representing his struggles with both authenticity and connection. Inside him, a sense of liberation grew. He let go of the fear of judgment and stepped fully into his truth. As the evening shadows lengthened, Jake took a step back to evaluate his work. The results were raw, unrefined, but also achingly beautiful in their honesty. This was him, layers of experience laid bare. Instead of retreating into shame, he felt a thrill at the idea of sharing this part of himself with Amanda. In that moment, he resolved to pour his heart into their collaboration. He would embrace the uncomfortable discussions, the potential for failure, and the beauty of discovery. It was time to confront not only his artistic fears but also the apprehensions of stepping out alongside someone else, something he had always avoided. A pang of excitement mixed with trepidation shot through him. How would Amanda react to this output? What if she saw depths in his work that he himself couldn't discern? As these thoughts whirled in his head, Jake felt a surge of determination rise. He wanted to believe that this moment was not just about his art but about catalyzing something greater, the shared journey with Amanda. The next week loomed ahead, and the prospect of unveiling his creation filled him with both dread and exhilaration. The question settled in his mind, tantalizing and daunting: how would he approach this pivotal moment of sharing, a dance between vulnerability and strength? He took a deep breath, the urgency of his decision palpable. This was where his journey was truly beginning. Would he allow the world to witness his evolution, or would he shy away once again? The answer felt just out of reach, waiting to be discovered. Jake sat on the edge of his stool, his heart racing as he contemplated the days ahead. The canvas before him felt like a reflection of his internal landscape, raw and unsettled yet filled with potential. With each brushstroke, he was uncovering something profound about himself, layers of vulnerability, fear, and hope intertwined, begging to be acknowledged. He could hear the ticking clock in the corner of the studio, each second a reminder that the time to reveal his artwork was fast approaching. Anxiety tightened around him like a noose. What if Amanda dismissed his work? What if her insight did not align with his reality? The questions echoed in his mind, twisting his resolve. He needed to plan, to prepare himself for the dialogue that would ensue between them. In an impulse driven by uncertainty, he reached for his notebook. Writing had always been another outlet for him, an easier way to articulate thoughts that felt too heavy to speak aloud. He began to scribble down his thoughts about the piece. It was more than just paint on canvas, it was a window into his life. The struggles of being a father, the failures he had faced, the moments of joy he had cherished, they all cried out for expression in a way that invited understanding and connection. As he wrote, the words flowed with surprising clarity. He expressed fears of inadequacy, his aspirations as a father and an artist, and the unshakable dread of judgment from others. Each line felt cathartic, lifting some of the weight that was pressing him down. This could be his narrative shared with Amanda, a stepping stone into their collaborative journey. Perhaps articulating his thoughts and feelings would ease the tension he was feeling about the reveal. With newfound determination, he returned to the canvas. As he painted, he layered in the words he had written, embedding fragments of his written confessions into the fabric of the artwork. The act of melding text and imagery felt profoundly liberating, signaling a shift in how he perceived vulnerability. It was no longer a weakness, it became a bridge connecting him to others, something that could resonate deeply. The evening drew on, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, the colors around him transformed. The studio was awash with warm hues, echoing the burgeoning optimism in his heart. The more he unveiled on the canvas, the more he uncovered about himself. It was a dance, a push and pull between fear and expression, but as he layered his thoughts into the painting, a creeping doubt clawed at him. What if Amanda failed to see the depth of his work? What if the emotional honesty he was pouring out became a barrier instead of a connection? The dichotomy plagued him. His commitment to being open was clashing with the instinct to protect himself from potential rejection. At that moment, Jake made a pivotal choice. He resolved to share not only the artwork but also the depths of his thought process with Amanda. If he achieved this, it would represent a significant step in his personal development, a testament to the evolution he had embarked on since their collaboration began. It wasn't merely about presenting a finalized painting but commencing a partnership forged in authentic exchange. Jake wandered through the studio, allowing his thoughts to simmer. Each corner of the room echoed the raw potential of his creation. The closer he got to the reveal, the stronger his resolve became. He needed to lean into the discomfort, embrace the fear of vulnerability. As a few days slipped away, anticipation transformed into an electric energy, coiling in his chest with every brushstroke. The unveiling day approached, a moment of truth that loomed before him. He had one last chance to finalize the message he wanted to convey to Amanda, but would he be able to muster the courage to let go of his fear of judgment? With the exhibition set for the following day, the real question loomed ominously: would he finally reveal the truth of his heart, or would he retreat into the shadows of self-doubt once more? Jake stood in the art studio, the walls echoing with the memories of the creative journey he had embarked upon. As he finished the final strokes of his painting, an exhilarating rush coursed through him. This piece was not merely a reflection of colors on canvas, it represented his evolution, a newfound sense of identity shaped by vulnerability, resilience, and connection. The painting enveloped the essence of his life, a single father navigating loss and uncertainty, yet lighting a path to rediscover passions. He had integrated fragments of his written confessions into the piece, allowing the rawness of his experiences to seep into every stroke. The colors screamed both courage and fragility, embodying the message he wished to convey to Amanda. Jake realized this artwork was a bridge, connecting his internal landscape to the outside world, inviting understanding and empathy. As he approached the day of the exhibition, anxiety began swirling within him. What if Amanda didn't resonate with his artistic voice? The fear of vulnerability threatened to grip him once more, but he pushed it aside. This was his moment to embrace authenticity. He reflected on how much he had grown, no longer tethered to self-doubt, but rather buoyed by a firm belief in his right to create and share. The day dawned bright and clear. Jake meticulously prepared the exhibition space, setting his artwork prominently on display. Each detail felt deliberate, and as he stepped back to assess the arrangement, a calm swept over him. He had conquered not just his canvas but the internal battles that had long raged. The journey had become more than a mere revival of art, it was transformative, indicating his readiness to step into a new light. As guests began to arrive, the air buzzed with anticipation. Jake spotted Amanda entering, an artful mix of elegance and enthusiasm radiating from her. He felt a rush of gratitude as their eyes met, a silent acknowledgement of the crossroad they both stood at. Would this exhibition symbolize the culmination of their shared commitment to vulnerability and expression? With each passerby, praise echoed around him, and the comfort of their reactions began to fortify his confidence. People garnering inspiration from his work was validation he had yearned for, proof that the risks he had taken were worthwhile. When Amanda finally approached his painting, her gaze lingered, and a soft smile tugged at her lips. "Jake, this is remarkable. The emotion is palpable," she said, her voice warm with sincerity. Jake felt his heart swell. Her acknowledgement felt like a milestone on the path of his journey. "Thank you, Amanda. It speaks to everything I've been through, both as a father and an artist. I wanted to show that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a form of strength." Amanda nodded, her eyes unwavering. "You've beautifully captured that message. This is not just art, it's a story that connects with so many people. You've embraced who you are, and that is incredibly powerful." In that moment, Jake felt not only recognized but affirmed in his newfound identity. He had come to realize that sharing his truth ignited connection not just with Amanda but with everyone who engaged with his story. He saw clearly now how conquering his inhibitions had fostered a space for others to embrace their vulnerabilities. As they continued sharing thoughts about the exhibition, Jake recognized the seeds of a deeper collaboration sprouting. What they had started at that wedding was blossoming into a partnership enriched by creativity, mutual support, and the power of storytelling. Their paths may have diverged and converged, but now they intertwined in a shared journey that promised new beginnings. The exhibition concluded not with a sense of finality but with an exhilarating opening and invitation into the next chapter of their artistic exploration. Jake embraced this moment, feeling a swelling pride in his transformation. He was a single dad who had allowed a dormant passion to bloom into colors of courage, resilience, and fulfillment. With the exhibition now a successful chapter behind him, Jake felt empowered to carry this transformation forward. The painting didn't just signify where he had been, it illustrated where he was headed. As he stepped beyond the confines of the studio, he knew he would always advocate for others to embrace their own stories, just as he had begun to wholeheartedly embrace his, and just like that, Jake made a promise to himself. He would continue painting, inspiring his children and himself, never again hiding behind fear. They would create together, learning the beauty of vulnerability and embracing the boldness of sharing themselves with the world. This was not the ending, it was the thriving beginning of a journey full of promise, connection, and authentic expression, a journey he was ready to share with Amanda, his children, and the world. Now that you've watched the culmination of Jake's transformational journey, you need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to show your support and fuel our creative engine. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration from stories of personal growth. Comment your thoughts and reactions below about this inspiring ending. Your insights matter.